want to talk to you about not the ministerial side of Steve Edington, but what I'm referring to as the passions of Steve Edington, or what Mike Ballantyne called Steve things still stuck in my mind. As the new minister, replacing a minister of some quarter century of service to the Nashua Church, Steve kept his nose to the ministerial grindstone for the first few years. But as he became more comfortable in his preacher and ministerial roles, Steve began to reveal more facets of his personality. And with 24 years of service to our church, we got to know those facets, the ones that seemed apart from his ministerial calling, pretty well. We got to know Steve the scholar for his wide-ranging reading and writing skills. His book production started with 100 questions non-members asked about Unitarian Universalism that he co-authored with our own John Sias in 1993. This book continues to keep the UUA bookstore afloat and shows a yearly profit to our income stream, not to mention those who have visited our church after reading his answers to those questions on our website. Thanks, Steve. But let me get back to Steve's passions because we need to stay focused here. There are three main passions. And as soon as I make this thing, here we go. Number one, baseball. Number two, Jack Kerouac and the Beat Poets. And number three, troubadours such as Rick Maston and Woody Guthrie. Dealing with baseball first, I call upon Nashua's own great storyteller, Billy Parker, who sadly could not be with us today. Billy writes, "I've been fortunate to go to several Red Sox games with Steve, and a few things stand out as memorable anecdotes of his style, his panache, and his passion. The first begins with his uncanny knowledge of the seating layout of Fenway Park, with its angles, distances, and locations of its infamous obstructed view seats. Due to Steve's often erratic and unpredictable daily schedule, it wasn't always possible for him to buy tickets in advance on game day. If you've ever seen the ticket windows at the park, you know that there is a group of 4 windows and a group of 3. Unbeknownst to newcomers, each window or booth has its own allotment of tickets. Some are single seats, some are groups. If one asks, the person in the booth will list the tickets available from that booth. Steve, knowledgeable fan that he is, would bounce from window to window in rapid succession, hearing, processing, and then choosing the best seat or seats available. Truly amazing." Billy goes on, as Billy does. Sorry, Billy, I couldn't help it. Secondly, as is the case only with true baseball fans, Steve would always have a scorecard and always score the game himself. And why today I should have trouble with this? Hang on. Next page. It's a lost art. What with high-tech scoreboards and cell phones that can give updates right in the palm of your hand, not for Steve, a true student of the game. Lastly, a memory from one of our water services in a September some years ago. One Sunday, when it came time for members to process to the front of the church and add water from places and destinations they had visited and enjoyed while vacationing, Steve poured in a mixture of water that he had collected from the drinking fountains located in each ballpark he had visited during the summer. Truly connecting his ministry with his love of the game. Thanks, Billy. Our president, Carol Hood, recalls that Steve was not just a baseball fan. He always used his Red Sox experiences to illustrate many non-baseball points to non-baseball people. Carol remembers that once Steve gave up on a game when his beloved Red Sox were so far behind so late in the game. He was on the subway going to his car when he learned that he had missed one of the most exciting comebacks ever. The lesson, as Steve tells it, if you give up when things are looking grim, you rob yourself of the opportunity to witness great things. Though he loved the Red Sox and worked them into his sermon as often as possible, Steve had other facets. To say that Steve was passionate about Jack Kerouac and the Beat Generation would be a serious understatement. His second book was Kerouac's Nashua Connection, published in 1999, followed in 2005 by The Beat Face of God, the Beat Generation writers as spirit guides. For those projects, Steve really immersed himself in the life of Lowell and the writer Jack Kerouac, to the extent that he eventually became the leader of the Lowell Celebrates Kerouac group, who put on an annual week-long remembrance to the beloved author. And in his sermons, we began to hear more quotes from On the Road, which led to sermons based on portions of other Kerouac novels. Most of us felt like we had actually read Kerouac's novels because we heard so much about them from Steve. By the way, Steve, I still haven't finished Desolation Angels. Steve peppered us with more sermons that drew on the writings of such Beat Generation greats as Allen Ginsberg, William Burroughs, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, Joyce Johnson, and Diana de Prima. And of course, we all nodded knowingly as if we too had read those authors. In fact, we began to trust Steve to read an author and distill the essence of his or her thought into both spiritual and practical guidance for how to live life as a human being. It is a gift. But I'm running out of time, and I haven't covered Steve's fascination with troubadours. In 2007, Steve published Troubadour and Poet, the Magical Ministry of Rick Maston. The Reverend Rick Maston is best known in UU circles as the composer of Let It Be a Dance, a song we have sung often. Then in 2012, after 2 years of research and writing, Steve published Bring Your Own God, the Spirituality of Woody Guthrie. Here's where it gets personal. During this time, Steve worked with Dan Murphy, putting together vignettes on the life and meaning of Woody Guthrie interspersed with Woody's songs. That music was provided by Dan, Kathy Grossman, and me. Thanks, Steve, for allowing us to help spread the social gospel of Woody Guthrie and getting us on stage in some very interesting venues. One final passion of the Reverend Steve Edington was his simple philosophy of being a minister and a human being. On the wall behind his desk was a little sign with the secret to leading a full and meaningful life. It read, 1, show up. 2, tell the truth. 3, do what you do with intensity. And 4, don't get attached to outcomes. Wise words indeed. I want to leave you with this final image. Stand by. It's the official Lowell Spinners baseball team's Jack Kerouac bobblehead doll. One of only 2, I think, still in existence. This one is Billy Parker's. I'm pretty sure the other is Steve's. I want to close with this message from Chris Parker, RE director for much of Steve's time here in Nashua. And once again, here we go. I would like to send my best wishes and congratulations to Steve. It was an honor and a pleasure to work with you for 27 years. You were only 24 years with us. I don't know what... Anyway, I always loved your offbeat leanings toward the beat culture, preference for Asian food, as our staff luncheons in Lowell would illustrate, and your openness to new ideas. You kept an even temper when things got crazy. You quietly allowed the congregations to take charge of many aspects of church life while firmly providing a solid structure and support for them. I greatly appreciated your support and trust in our youth. I think you were the last church in the district that supported and welcomed the district youth conferences under your leadership. With a full heart and grandest of congratulations, thank you. And thank you, Chris.
Take off your shoes. This place you're standing, it's holy ground. Take off your shoes. The spot you're standing, it's holy ground. These words I heard in my burning bush. This place you're standing, it's holy ground. I heard my fiery voice speak to me. This spot you're standing, it's holy ground. That spot is holy, holy ground. That place you stand, it's holy ground. This place you tread, it's holy ground. God made this place his holy ground. Take off your shoes and pray. The ground you walk, it's holy ground. Take off your shoes and pray. The ground you walk, it's holy ground. Every spot on earth I traipse around. Every spot I walk, it's holy ground. Every spot on earth I traipse around. Every spot I walk, it's holy ground. Every spot, it's holy ground. Every little inch, it's holy ground. Every grain of dirt, it's holy ground. Every spot I walk, it's holy ground. Every spot, it's holy ground. Every little inch, it's holy ground. Every grain of dirt, it's holy ground. Every spot I walk, it's holy ground. Well, thank all of you for being here today. It's really is a wonderful occasion beyond what I can express in some ways, although I do have some prepared remarks here nonetheless. Just great to hear my favorite Ferlinghetti poem, whom I've had the pleasure of meeting him on a couple of occasions, and believe it or not, he will celebrate his 100th birthday this March. He's still out there in San Francisco keeping that City Lights bookstore going. Really an amazing person. And thanks for the Woody Guthrie music, and we'll hear a little bit of Grateful Dead here in just a few minutes as well. So it is really good to be with you this morning in a place that meant and really continues to mean so much to me on my journey of ministry. Taking the action you did at your annual meeting last June and arranging for the service today, you do me one of the great honors that can come to a minister in the course of his or her career, and that is to be named Minister Emeritus of a congregation that he or she has served. And for that, you have my deepest thanks and appreciation. Well, a lot has sure happened. A lot sure happened in those 24 years we had together, and you've heard some of it already. Hard to believe, for example, that when we began my ministry here, there was no internet. How did we ever manage? I recall a summer board meeting at Carol Hood's house. This was in her first go-round as president. A fellow named Ken Brown, who's long since moved away, showed up with a laptop and said he was working on a website for the church. Question most of us had was, what's a website? There's all kinds of things I could recall here, but the ones that come to me in what is of necessity a short time frame this morning, the ones that are most vivid are personal ones. Our son Gordon was 4 years old when Michelle and I came here. We enrolled him in White Wing and in the church's RE program. Then it didn't seem to take all that long before I was officiating his wedding to Crystal right here in front of this pulpit. And then there were the dedication and naming ceremonies of their two daughters, our Michelle and my granddaughters, also right here, Alexa and Grace. On the subject of weddings, and this has been alluded to already, I continue to claim bragging rights. I continue to claim bragging rights to officiating the first same-sex marriage ceremony in the state of New Hampshire, again right here on the midnight hour of January the 1st of 2010, which was the day their legalization in this state took place. That was a few years prior to the Supreme Court ruling. And the party we had over there in the parish house leading up to the marriage ceremony, Jen Morton, Michelle Morrison, has to be the greatest New Year's celebration I have ever attended. Those of you who were here, it was a great night. There are all kinds of other stops I know I could make along memory lane today, and some have already been made, of course. But I want to just say this. When I look at where you as a congregation have gone in the past few years of your ministry with Reverend Allison Palm, programs, the initiatives, some of the new paths you have taken, I have to say it really does confirm the decision that I made some 7-8 years ago, that it was time for me to step aside so that a new generation of ministerial leadership could arrive here and take you into the next chapter or chapters of your congregational life. I feel very confirmed and affirmed in that decision. It is so good to see the ways in which you and Reverend Allison now walk together. Speaking of which, just allude to one thing. I'm especially moved and I'm gratified by what you have done as a congregation to recover and hold up and honor the life and ministry of Reverend Jeffrey Campbell, along with the lives of his wife Lillian and sister Marguerite. Coming to terms, even within a liberal faith tradition of our own, with the often undisclosed racism within our denominational history is essential, for it is acknowledging the broken pieces of our past that moves us into a more just and reconciled present and future. You played an important role in that process. And it got you some well-deserved recognition in the latest edition of the UU World, if you haven't seen that yet. Well, when I ended my ministry here, I also brought to a close the full-time settled minister part of my ministerial journey. As most of you know, I then entered the interim ministry phase of my career, which is still ongoing and is rewarding. And the closing of that phase is now coming into view on my horizon. It's still out there at this time, but time is passing. And so I do look forward, in the not too distant future, to re-engaging with you in some ways to be sure that are appropriate for a Minister Emeritus, ways that will respect and honor the Minister and Minister Emeritus covenant that Allison and I have put in place. I'm looking forward to being able to do that in the not too distant future. Well, when I was asked about songs I would like to have heard here today, you already heard the one, the Woody Guthrie Holy Ground song. And the other I asked for was one called Ripple by Robert Hunter and Jerry Garcia, a little Grateful Dead song. My favorite line in that song, and the reason I chose it, is the one that says, "There is a road, no simple highway, between the dawn and the dark of night." I've always taken that to mean that we can choose the roads that we feel are going to be challenging to us. The simple highway is kind of like maybe the script we can live out that we maybe think others are expecting of us. Well, to choose the road and not the simple highway was what led me first into the ministry and then into the Unitarian Universalist ministry as well. It's been a wonderful road to travel. I really appreciate, I'll always be gratified by the part that you have played as I have taken that road. So once again, I thank you for the honor you have given me. I shall wear my new ministerial designation with pride and humility and deep gratitude. So blessed be, and let's listen to Ripple.
And I should express my gratitude that among the songs that Steve introduced me to that I did not know before is this one. And by the way, it has a part for you all, but I don't need to teach it to you. You'll know it when we get there. If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tunes were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice coming through the music? Would you hold it near as it were your own? It's a hand-me-down. The thoughts are broken. Perhaps they're better left unsung. I don't know, don't really care. Let there be songs to fill the air. Ripple in still water where there is no pebble toss, nor wind to blow. Reach out your hand if your cup be empty. If your cup is full, may it be again. Let it be known there is a fountain that was not made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway, between the dawn and the dark of night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in clear water where there is no pebble tossed, nor wind to blow. You who choose to lead must follow. But if you fall, you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. Da 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 da. This is your part. Da 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 da. Everybody. Da 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 da.